You're listening to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. Hello, and welcome to City of Muses, a brand new podcast on the Paris Underground Radio Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jennifer Geraghty, and each week I'll be sitting down with an artist or creative to talk about what inspires them, what their creative process is like, and how Paris fits into it all. My guest this week is mapmaker, illustrator, and designer Sonja Bajic. Sonja believes that all maps are personal, and that every facet of life can be translated into a map. I've admired her illustrations for years with their blend of color, whimsy, and humor, and I'm delighted to speak with her about how she first fell in love with mapmaking, how she collects memories for inspiration, and how Paris has shaped her artistry. Hello, Sonja. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Jennifer. It's really nice to talk to you today.
I'm so happy to finally meet you. As I mentioned when I emailed, I've been following you for so long, and I'm glad that I've sort of forced our paths to cross now.
I am very glad that I'm here, really. I've been following your whole network for a very long time as well. And I'm always amazed by the number of people that you have, really people that I also follow. And it's it's always a lot of inspiration as well on Paris. Even if I'm annoyed at this city, sometimes it's still you learn so much. So thank you for doing all of this for all of us. So yeah, really glad to be here.
Thank you. That's very nice to say. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Of course. Yeah, I am Sonja Bajic. I've been Parisian for almost 12 years, and I am a mapmaker, designer, and illustrator. So I am my biggest passion and what I do most of the days is map making. So I do illustrated maps, and I work for personal clients, people who travel around and they want their life mapped. So, which is always very inspiring because you hear so many incredible stories, really, really incredible stories. And then I work a lot for example, right now I'm working on a map for a little town that organizes a giant medieval fair. So they wanted, it's going to be I think medieval fair is in October. They have a date, but they have problem with some organization. I don't know. But anyhow, it's happening. And it's one of the biggest medieval fairs in France. So I'm doing a map of that medieval fair. So yeah, it's very exciting. I love drawing. And then people contact me for maps. And then, the next thing you know, you're doing a book or a design or branding. And it's all stems from my passion for space and experiences and emotions that we connect to those two.
That's so interesting. When you're doing personal maps, I can picture it in my mind if it's in one place, but if it's in multiple places, how do you organize that?
It works. I did also maps of, I think life is a map. I think anything can be a map. We walk a map every day. So everything started when I moved to Paris, and I don't know how long have you been in Paris, but do you remember the little notebooks, the Paris arrondissement right before Google Maps? So you would actually have to open a map and open a book and find your way on the map. And I got it's genetic. My mom has really great orientation. So I orientate myself really well on a map as well and in real life. So I used to just draw things in those notebooks, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had that. And then I would have a bunch of notebooks around as well. The planners or diaries or something, journals. So I would be oh, this is a great gallery. This is a great cocktail spot. This is, so, and that I would turn into a map. So that is real life map. But also over the years, people would ask me to, for example, I illustrated a map for a book. So the author, she wrote a book about her life. It's really cool book. And it's a Serbian author. I'm originally from Serbia. So it's a Serbian author. And she's I would like the whole book compressed into a map. So it's just I created an island for her and put different things on that island. And then I also did, I have to print the map out. I just finished it. The woman is digital nomad, right? So she went to Greece, Montenegro, Spain, France, and Austria, right? And we put the whole her life of the last year on one peninsula.
Wow.
Right. So it's all like, obviously Austria doesn't have seas, so it's more inside, but everything else is on the seaside. So I really think anything can be turned into a map. It's just a question, of what you're expecting. Like if you want to present your life as an island, or you want to present your experience as a peninsula, or, I also did like Europe and the States. So you just have ocean in between that has, it's not, maps are, after all, not really, it's what a map maker draw them. So, I can make Atlantic a bit smaller. So those two are, like closer, like it really can be anything and everything. And then I also did a map of values, for example, right? So it can be very meta as well. It depends really on a client and on my inspiration. So it's incredible. I'm really lucky in that I have a chance to work on so many interesting projects and with so many interesting people.
I love that. But I also love how much it uses your imagination.
Yeah.
I think myself, I'm directionally challenged. I'm always lost. So I think when I look at a map, I look at it as like a set thing, like this is going to save my life. So it's nice that you can actually infuse it with imagination to create something else.
Yes, I understand. It was, each of us has a map of life because and it can be anywhere. Like people are like, yeah, but you're in Paris, so many things are happening all the time. I'm like, no, but it's life. I'm talking about you do similar things every day, right? Or within a week or within a month. So that's your life map, in that area. Or I go to Serbia very often. So I guess at this point in my life, that would be part of my map as well, so maps are incredible, and today we can play with them. But back in the day when they were actually for the first time, we had maps for centuries, right? But from the 15th, 16th century on, that is when we actually have maps and we use maps. I'm talking about people who are traveling the world and doing trade and doing some good stuff, some bad stuff, crossing the oceans. But it's incredible how dependent we were on maps back in the day, right? So, and how some of us are dependent nowadays as well. But no, I am living in a city that is not yours or that is big, like Paris, where you need to constantly, I'm sure you have that all the time as well. You have to go to that place to see friends, like a new hotel or Airbnb. And you're you need a map. You need to see where you're going, right? So I really use the map on maybe not everyday basis, but at least 4 times a week, right? So yeah, we're still dependent.
Do you remember the first map you ever created?
So I finished architecture. So my background is in architecture. I have a master in urban planning and architecture. So I think, urban plans are type of a map that, it can be seen that way. Probably the first maps, it was those small maps that I used to draw on my notebook. So I have a lot of them. I'm just they're all scattered away. It would be Metro, I don't know, Sentier. And then, next to Metro Sentier, there was a gallery. So it would be something very simple. And sadly, many of those places don't exist anymore, right? So I did a project called 100 Days of Paris back in 2015. And I did a drawing and a story about my first year in Paris, which was early 2012, right? I moved in January 2012, and there was just a lot of stories. And, we all think our lives are special in Paris, but life is life. We all had similar experiences. So, but part of those 100 Days of Paris, I actually drew a lot of maps, right? So some of them are diagrams, some of them are real maps. And those are probably, I started drawing maps in 2013, I'd say, intensely, constantly. But I think those are the first maps that really, I'm still very proud of some of them, right? Some of them are a bit outdated because a lot of places don't exist. I need to redo my Marais map, for example, which is one of my favorite maps, but it's just half of the places don't exist anymore there. So I would mention those maps, so to say. I cannot say the first map, a lot of the small things, but like, yeah, I think those maps are changed my perception of map making, so to say.
Was there a point in your life where you were deciding between becoming an architect or an urban planner and an artist?
Yeah, it was really, it all stemmed from illustration. I really love drawing, and I love not drawing per se, but like drawing, telling a story, like illustrating, right? And I guess that is like, I don't think being an artist is easy, and I come from a the family of engineers, whereas like things, they have rhyme and reason. It's like very structured and organized. And I like it that way. But I was developing my career, and I'm still am, doing different stuff around, because I think it's, I don't know. I just think it was hard for me to be like, okay, I definitely won't be an architect anymore, because it's part of you. Like, I love city. I love built environment, right? So I think map making is my way of being an architect, if that makes sense, right? So, but yeah, I love the freedom that illustrated maps give me. And that is why I've chosen that career path. I love storytelling, and I think there's a lot of that in map making and of course in illustration, but that is something that attracts me and excites me over and over again. And every city has so many stories to tell, so you can draw so many maps, and that's fascinating.
I read on your website that you said that your art is connected to the themes of femininity, enchanting colors, and the sense of magic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, my first book that came out was a book that's called What My Girlfriend Stole Me. And that was the illustrated books of what my friends told me over the years. So I am really, I don't know, I just realized at some point that like feminism is such a big part of me. And it has always been, like even before Beyonce said it's okay to be feminist, right? My family is deeply feminist. So I also co-authored the book and published, like there's a project called What a Woman in Serbia about women of Serbia who changed our life in the last century or so. So I don't know, it's just like such an essential part of myself that like, and I think when you look at my maps, you can see it's a map done by a woman. That's what people tell me, right? So there's that, I guess, I don't know, maybe choice of colors, maybe there's something, I don't know, whatever that means. And then all of that, like I really think on good and bad days that life is magical, so that you can, if we are searching for interesting stuff in life, and if we're searching for good things, we can find them even on hard days. I don't mean to sound pretentious or anything, but I think it's an exercise. So sometimes I do the workshops with people, and it's like literally a map making workshop that it's not about drawing. It's about experiencing life in a different way, right? So we go and we do like what we see, things attract us, So I still remember there was a chair in Rusharon that was like, it was yellow, bright yellow chair, and it had like little dots of rain. It was just in front of some cafe, and it had like flowers on that chair. And like, I mean, that was like 6-7 years ago. So I sat down and I drew that, I painted that. And I remember I wrote like a happy yellow chair on a rainy day. So like small things like if we search, I guess it's an exercise, because you don't, there are a lot of bad days in life, but like if you decide that you're going to find something that is good or that makes you happy, even like a cup of coffee with ice cube in it, like that can be part of your journey. That can be your drawing. That can be the map of your week, your month, your life. And I guess that serendipity that envelops all of that is magical. It sounds very like philosophical, but it's very simple. I really think that life is fascinating and that life always wins, even when it doesn't seem so. So, we just need to be patient with ourselves more. So, yeah, that is, I guess, I didn't want to sound too complicated on my website, so I try to put it in 3 words, and I guess that's it. So, Jennifer, when you push me to talk, then I start talking and I cannot stop.
Does French culture sometimes leave you scratching your head? Well, you might enjoy listening to our sister podcast, Navigating the French, hosted by journalist Emily Monaco. Each episode focuses on a different word in the French language, and Emily is joined by an expert who will help explore what that word says about French culture. Listen now to Navigating the French on ParisUndergroundRadio.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back with City of Muses after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. No, I think it's beautiful. It's really about your perspective, right? Like, it's about what you're choosing to focus on. And, we live in a place, we're lucky enough to live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. But like you said, once you live here, life becomes life, and you can get stuck in a routine, and you can get stuck in thinking about like this bill that you have to pay or this errand that you have to run, and your world can become quite small and routine. And these little exercises that you have of reminding yourself of where you are, where we are in space and in time, and that there is magic in everything. I think that's really beautiful.
It can be like really simple thing. If you want to do it, it can be like searching for color in a day that will define the day. And then it can be like, I don't know, like mint green of some woman's dress that you saw in a metro, or like kids, like marble or something. But then you concentrate on finding something. Like it can be, because I think the mistake that we all make is that we are like, oh yeah, I'm going to live more creative life. And then you're like, your expectations are incredible. You have, like, I read for the last almost 10 years, 4 pages a book every day. Sometimes more, not less, but like, because like I don't have time for more, but like I need to read. It makes me happy. It's the same thing with these kinds of exercises. You stop and you say, okay, one thing I'm going to see today that is funny. And then you search for that funny thing, right? Not more, one single thing. And, or like, one color that really made my day. So yeah, if you have time, sit down and paint or draw. But if not, just write it down. And, lo and behold, like a month later, you have 31 or 30 colors that inspired you and that will make you happy when you see them in like 3 months, 2 years, like 10 years. So yeah, that's it.
I love that. I was reading also, or I guess it was in your video, about this memory collection and how you sketch things that you find every day. This is how you collect these ideas that you find?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So it's like really being open to seeing things in a different way. Because, life is not a camera. We just go around and we take photos, which are great. I mean, I took since this morning, like probably 10 photos. But it's just like when I do workshops, I ask people not to take any photos because it's like, let's try to be like we were 15, 20 years ago when we didn't take photos all the time, right? And I think that's the whole perspective change, right? Like seeing things that you wouldn't see otherwise because you're just like concentrated. Oh, I can take a photo of that. No, like try to see it, look at it, just don't glance over it, but actually look at it. So, I mean, I am not saying that I'm doing that all the time. I need to remind myself as well. But like, I think that perspective changed the way I see my art, and I think it made my art much better. Because like, then you see things like in more details, it's more, I mean, especially like in Paris, you can stand in front of a church and you have, or like, some nice building, not even church, like nice building. And you see every time you see like more and more details and more, I don't know, like recently I was in front of Saint-Étienne-du-Mont, which is behind the Pantheon. And I was like, oh my God, I've never seen that there's like S and E, like Saint-Étienne above the door. I mean, I looked at that church hundreds and hundreds of times because it's so beautiful, right? And, I guess it's like that exercise of, I read somewhere that like there's a professor in the States, somewhere in California, that suggested art professor that you should go to a museum and sit in front of a painting of your choice for 3 hours with no phone, like just sitting there looking at the painting. And then obviously I haven't done it, but
I think I would lose my mind.
and that's what she's saying. She's, oh no, I know. I read that in 4,000 Weeks, the book by Oliver Berkman. I think he tried it. He's like, you're sitting and you're like, oh my God, I cannot do that. You start turning around, and then at some point you just start seeing things. I mean, not going crazy, but seeing things on the painting. And I was just like, I need to do this. I need to find 3 hours of my life, first of all. But like, I think it's fascinating. And I really think it's the question of the exercise, So it's the same thing with like seeing things that you usually don't see around yourself.
Yeah. I love your artistic style. I think it is all the things that you said. I find it to be feminine and whimsical and beautiful. Is this a style that you've always had, or is it something that's evolved over time?
I think my style is evolving all the time, to be honest. Like I find old maps that I did, and sometimes I'm like, this is not so good. But I'm just like, this was me, like back in the day. It's okay. I try not to judge myself, but like, I see how I am getting better in some stuff, and maybe more clear in some of the things I'm drawing, so to say. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was similar, but I see how I'm getting better. And I find it funny because people see, like I've been doing map of cocktails for Bluebird Bar in Paris, like for last couple of years. And like every 6 months, they change the menu. So we do a new map of cocktails. And, every time we have a great communication. So like they're very creative. So they always think of something new. And then my friends would come, they were like, oh, I would never say you did that. But I'm just like, I do so many things, So, and like, I want to try new styles. And I am genuinely grateful for my clients who come and respect my style and then push me forward and, push me to think in a different way and change it a bit and like learn something about myself and about what I'm capable of doing and not capable of doing, right? So all of that is like, what you see on the website, sometimes it scares me because I'm just like, oh my God, are people constantly expecting that style from me? But then it's a style that I actually love doing, It's just that like sometimes, I do other art things. It's just some of them you never see. Some of them are, on my Instagram account sometimes, or like with my newsletter. So it really, but yeah, to go back to your question, that style is evolving and I am glad that it's like that, right? So, and I'm glad that people see that there is one style, that it is me. That makes me happy.
I think our whole conversation has been about this in a way, but I'm going to ask you explicitly, how much do you think that Paris has helped or hindered your creative process?
Oh, I don't think anything would be the same without Paris. Like what you need to know is that I didn't come as a crazy Francophile here, right? I came here because I got a scholarship and I stayed because I was the right age and I was ready to work like crazy and, survive here and make the money that I want to make and find the inspiration I want to find and party all the parties I want to party, right? Now, 11 years later, I don't have the same lifestyle, but it's definitely, I think in Paris, a lot of things are possible. I don't think there are many places in the world where all those things that are possible like in Paris. I think there are a lot of incredible artists that have their work exhibited here. And I am a huge fan of museum and galleries. I feed my soul like that. I sadly don't have enough time to go as often as I would like to, but I think that makes it special, like a special meal. If you would eat all the time, like incredible food, like, Michelin star, then you would get bored, I guess, at some point. So it's the same thing with museums and galleries. I just think it opened a lot of perspectives for me. And I think it showed me what I can be. And when I was scared, I knew that there are a lot of people before me that were scared in the same way. And I think that's very helpful. But over the years, now that I'm older, I know that you can feel those same emotions on all the places, so wherever you live, you feel the same emotions. But Paris is it's something special, and not in a way, oh my God, it's so beautiful, in a way that sometimes it's very cruel, sometimes it's very dense, emotionally dense, but it's, going back to what I said before, you need to, you're in charge of what you decide to see in the world. So that's it. So it's easier for us living in Paris, but there are a lot of, it's 2023. We need to search far and wide.
Beautiful. Well, I think that's a perfect place to leave this. Where can people find you if they want to keep up to date with what you're doing and what you're working on?
These days, I spend a lot of time on Substack. So I had a newsletter that was on a different platform, and then I moved to Substack, I think at the beginning of April, and I am so happy there. I write about Paris, about creativity, about my travels. I do a lot of videos on my paintings and painted maps and drawn maps and my posters and whatnot. So I think that's the best place. I'm on Instagram, of course. Instagram was my happy place until it became very unhappy place, I think, for most of us. So but I'm there as well. You can see what I'm doing, and I post stories still on Paris almost every day. So, Substack is good. And my website, if you want to talk to me or tell me what you think about, all of this, my email is around as well. So I love communication, and write me.
I'll include links to all of that so that people can find you really easily.
Thanks, Jennifer. Great.
Thank you so much, Sonja. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
I had a great time as well. And thank you for listening. It's always good to talk to people who ask the right questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to City of Muses. If you like what you've heard, please take a moment to rate and review it. This is the fastest and easiest way to help support the podcast. Tell a friend who could use a little inspiration. You can also subscribe to the Paris Underground Radio newsletter over on our website, which comes out every Sunday and gives a little peek into what's on the network for the week ahead. I'm your host, Jennifer Geraghty, and you can find me on all socials at Jennyphoria. That's JennyPhoria. Thank you for listening, and may you find inspiration wherever you go. City of Muses was produced by Jennifer Geraghty for Paris Underground Radio.